It's obviously the debate is on the monarchy. Should it be abolished? I'm sure you knew. So we'll have some possible announcements at the end if we feel necessary. We decided to go for a vote to start with, as both the speakers like to. So if we could have a for, against, or abstain on whether or not the monarchy should be abolished. Can I buy some paper? Like cardboard pen.
Jesus. Come on.
You got a pen?
Come on, Matty, sort it out.
Yeah. I know.
Can't think.
That was something, a bit of entertainment for you.
That was good.
Right. So we'll have for, against, and abstain to start with, and then we'll have the same at the end. Okay, so can we have a show of hands before the debate? Everyone for abolishing the monarchy? In a show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. And against it? Keeping the monarchy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because you count as well, because I can't see the perspective. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is it 12? 12 right? 12 acceptable. And abstentions. 3. Right, okay, so we'll now begin, I think, and we'll start. Would you like to go first with why you should? I should mention we should start with why you should oppose it. Because I'm getting my orders in the wrong thing because of. It's quite important. Yes, of course. Yes, so we'll have. We have sort of odd coalition going on that doesn't really do anything. I can't imagine there's some sort of blueprint for it. Anyway, yes, if you'd like to go first, we have Ray he's the Northwest Coordinator of the Republic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and happy St George's Day. Thank you for inviting me along to speak on this important topic. My name is Ray Evans. I'm Northwest Coordinator for the Republic Campaign. It's a national group, and we are part of we are a regional group that's been set up in the last few years, along with a number of other groups. This isn't the first time I've come up against Scott. We've times now, most recently 6-7 weeks ago in Manchester, Making Society, very close vote at the end, narrowly lost. I will say I do hope that Scott's recollections of this debate are slightly more accurate than his last attempt. I scarcely believe I was at the same debate, to be honest with you. We've got quite a few notes on what you put on your blog and on your website. We do struggle with speakers for the other side on this. I mean, this is such a the monarchy is so popular, we can't actually find anybody to speak for it. Which is why, of course, Scott, I mean, very personal young man, and it's nice to see him again. But he comes all the way out from Exeter or today, London. So if you do know anybody within a 200-mile radius in Manchester who would like to speak on behalf of the monarchy, let us know. Because Scott's on borrowed time. Any more of that, we're looking for a little bit more truthfulness, and then we'll keep putting you forward as an opposition speaker. So we are a campaign group. We're not aligned to any political party. We're ordinary people, all volunteers, and our aim to replace the monarchy with a single elected head of state. One of us, elected by us and subject to us, not to whom we are subject to, and an end to any political role for the royal family or state funding. This is what we do up and down the country, basically debating and also on the streets and leafleting, and we were on Liverpool last Saturday. Very positive response on the streets of Liverpool and in Manchester, and that response reflects what we know to be the case nationally, that there is a hard core of monarchists. There's a generational issue there, and we see that on the streets of about 20-25%, a similar number of Republicans, and the largest group is a single central portion of 50% of the people who are not bothered one way or the other, and that's our task. And we're not pretending that the monarchists, as they die off, or slightly come to us, they're going into that middle group. It's our job to convince them. So basically, what people are telling us is that prepared to put up with what they have. That is quite a different thing than actually outright support for the monarchy, which is what the media will have us believe. This is an important issue. It's not about an elderly lady wearing a crown, and it's not about what dress Kate is wearing on front of Hello and OK magazine, although you might be forgiven for thinking that. It's at the very heart of our political system. This is about who represents us at home and abroad, our hopes and aspirations, and it deserves to be treated seriously. It's actually a taboo subject, this. It's not unifying, it's wholly divisive. Nobody dares speak about it. When you get into the workplace, you'll find nobody speaks about this. They don't speak about it in the pub. If you do think it's unifying, go and start a conversation about it with, amongst a group of people in the pub and see how unifying it is. It is not. Before we look at the alternatives, we should say why we want to end the monarchy, and this comes down to three main issues. And the first one, and overriding all others, it's undemocratic. We are a country priding ourselves on our democracy such that it is. We elect just under half our parliament, and we get involved around the world preaching democratic principles and promoting democracy, and we should practice what we preach at the very highest level of our society.
Yeah.
Hereditary public office has no place in a modern democracy. The PM last year told us that the prospect of a firstborn princess inheriting the crown ahead of her brother was a victory for equal rights. You cannot mention monarchy and equal rights in the same sentence. Monarchy discriminates against every man, woman and child in this country who is not born into the House of Windsor. This is about aspiration, how we want to portray ourselves around the world, how we define ourselves as a nation. We can't be socially equal at birth, but we can be politically equal. And that means every man, woman and child being able to aspire to the role of head of state. And monarchy tells us that no matter how good we are as individuals, we can't match the poorest qualified royal. The second point is it is unfit for purpose. It is a broken institution, highly secretive, exempt from the Freedom of Information Act, something the Queen has personally lobbied successive Prime Ministers to remain. Members of the royal family, this is something that Scott misquoted me on last time, members of the royal family are not allowed to be criticised in Parliament. The monarchy can be, but individual members' roles, as in the case of Prince Andrew and his dodgy dealings, cannot be criticised in Parliament. There's ample evidence for that. We hear the phrase the Queen acting on the advice of the PM a lot, which basically means she's a puppet, she does what she's told. The politicians have already too much power in this country, but this cushy, non-questioning relationship works both ways. She doesn't criticise them, and in return they don't question the monarchy. In addition, Crown rights transferred to government give the PM huge powers to go to war without proper debate, for example. This is a good time for Republicans. Our numbers are growing drastically, might be a surprise to you, but actually when we have royal events such as the Jubilee and the wedding, our numbers swell, and they're going through the roof, and they did last year. A little bit disappointed there isn't, apart from the baby, there isn't a natural celebration coming up that we can plan for. We were asked to celebrate the Diamond Jubilee. Now, the Queen came into the role in 1952, aged 26. 60 years later, she's still in the role. Now, that is not an achievement. That is basic statistics. Elizabeth Windsor's defined the role basically as Elizabeth Windsor defined the role as the monarch as she sees fit. So we don't expect any more or any less from a head of state than how she defines it. And Charles will define it in a completely different way. And he's already starting to do that, almost as a regent. Moreover, we have no criteria for measuring the performance of our head of state other than this passing of the years. We hear she's never put a foot wrong. And sure, she's shaken all the right hands and stood all the right carpets and laid all the right foundation stones. But no one can remember a single quote or sentence that she has uttered in 60 years, other than some glib comment about Annis Horribilis in 1992, when she just commented on her horrible year and the divorces and the Windsor fire. Actually, 1992 was quite a good year for me, but obviously quite a bad year for her. So it wasn't our horrible year, it was her horrible year. Not a single nation-rousing speech, or at a time of national celebration or grief. A head of state who doesn't give interviews, aside from the fawning BBC stage-managed efforts, which were quite frankly absurd. So a silent monarch then, buoyed up by public indifference, that is the reality. The next major event, of course, is the royal baby, and while we wish Kate well in that in the birth, it does raise questions, and we will focus on the fact that we've been asked to celebrate our head of state potentially 60 years before its time. That is no celebration in a democracy. And also raises the fact that we, under the current system, are only likely to get aged monarchs unless someone dies young. And there's no danger of that. They live quite good lifestyles and don't expend too much energy. I believe Charles still has someone to squeeze his toothpaste for him, so he's not overly exerted. There's also the very real human rights issue of taking a child's lifetime in the public eye before its birth. we already know which school it's going to go to, that it will be in the armed services in some way, which university it will go to, and then nothing. You know, this void while they wait to ascend to the phone, as Charles has done for the last God knows how many years. The third point I was going to go into, cost is irrelevant. It does get people very excited, and people on the streets quoting to us the 6 million pay rise, which we've known about for some time. I don't know if you're aware, but it was rushed through quite quickly 2 years ago. The Sovereign Support Act, as it became, or bill, where the Queen would no longer receive money, or the monarchy would no longer receive money based on need through the civil lift. The MPs obviously got quite embarrassed about having to discuss that every few years, and they said, we'll just make the monarchy take a cut, 15% from the Crown Estates. Despite the name, the Crown Estates have got nothing to do with the monarchy. There's no more right to that money than you or I have. It's not really set at 15%, it can never go down, and it has no upper limit. So that's where we get the 6 million increase from. So yes, cost is irrelevant, but it does get people annoyed. The third point that we have is the very political nature. And we as Republicans have known that Charles, for years, has had considerable political influence. He's used the power of veto over legislation in his role as the Duke of Cornwall, the Duchy of Cornwall. That's a right that no other landowner in the UK has. That's his personal right. And of course, last September we had news of the spider letters in his very open, well, wasn't open, it was secretive, the secretive involvement in government legislation. Now, this was challenged under the Freedom of Information Act for this information to become public. It was passed by the tribunal, but subsequently vetoed by the Attorney General as seriously damaging to his role as a future monarch. Now, we, the people, should be the judge of whether that's damaging as his role as a future monarch, not some faceless bureaucrat. In the past, we've known that Charles has had involvement in legislation around wind farms, nuclear power, GM foods and architecture, to name a few, and homeopathic medicine, where it's only his involvement that is in the NHS. And you can pretty much guess what his views are in each of those topics, but you can't do anything about it if you disagree with it. So to all monarchists who say we don't want another politician, we say you've already got one. I see I've run out of time, so I will just focus on alternative. You don't have to look too far. Maybe we can talk about alternatives later, but we don't have to look too far for a very good alternative system. Our nearest neighbour, Ireland, has an excellent system. They had a succession of, going back to Mary Robertson, Mary McAleese, and the current one, Dr. Higgins, who've all achieved approval ratings in the 90s, something our royal family can only dream about. This country is full of talented people. This is not a choice between Charles and a has-been politician. We've got talented people from the world of arts, sciences, academia, sports, any one of whom could win, could be an able head of state. So this is a winnable argument, but people need to be convinced. Polls are no substitute for open discussion, and that's what we're fighting for. It's not easy, we're up against a huge palace PR machine, but recent history has showed us that change, when it does happen around the world, can happen very quickly. And we look at apartheid, the fall of the Eastern Bloc, Arab Spring as examples of that. I think I'll leave it there, and I look forward to fielding your questions afterwards. Thank you.